called me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. The feet may fail and fear surrounds me. You never fail, and you won't start now. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders, and we walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet would ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders, and we walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet would ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders, and we walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet would ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. And keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine.
Let's pray. God, Lord, we come to you right now just praising and worshiping you for who you are. Thank you for who you are and for giving us this faith and sacrificing your son for us, Lord. Pray that you will help us learn something from the chapel speaker and bless the speaker. Let him speak the words you give him and just preach something to us, Lord. In your name, amen.
praise team, thank you for performing up here where it's cold today. And we'll just kind of snuggle together, not too close. Anyhow, it's always great to have Brady Hassell with us. Brady graduated from Greenbrier several years ago, went on to serve in the military, served very well, very heroically. And Brady, we're excited that you're here today, so come and bless us. Thank you.
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? Good. All right. It is just so good to always be back here with you all. It is such a privilege for me just coming back here. This is really where a lot of things started. My walk with Christ started here. And it's hard to believe that 15 years has gone by. I was class of 04. And 15 years is just crazy. I'm still 17 in my head, but my body and my responsibilities say otherwise. So just a little bit more about me. Graduated in 04, went on to Liberty University, played football there for 4 years, and joined the Army right after that in 2008, and spent some time with the 101st Airborne Division out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Went to Afghanistan on 2 separate occasions. I was an infantry officer, so both those deployments were spent. One was a platoon leader, and we were in the southeast portion of Afghanistan, and got into some pretty good scuffles there with the Taliban, and led about 30 guys through several months, probably about 10 months of direct fire combat there. Came home, I got injured during that deployment, and was able to recover and return. And then I went back in 2012, 2013 for another rotation. We got out in 2014, and I think that was the next chapter of my life starting. We just had our first kid, Brad, who's now 7, and we were starting our family and transitioning out of the military. And I think that was a period of my life where a lot of what I knew to be true sort of started to unravel for me a little bit. And actually, my wife made me promise that I would record this so she could hear. So let me start that up real quick. But that was a very challenging period of time in my life. In our marriage, we were having our second kid, Brucey, at the time. And like I said, I think some of those things that I learned here, my understanding about God and how I relate to Him, started to become a little bit distorted, and that drove some poor behavior, poor decisions, and got me down a pretty bad road where I was ready to check out, you guys. I know we're all kind of come to different points in our life where we're ready to check out. Some of you guys have had certain life circumstances that have already occurred for you. You're in high school. You have your whole life in front of you, and yet you feel like, I'm kind of ready to check out. I don't know about this whole thing. And so we get surrounded and enveloped in this environment here, and being back here is just, so much is familiar, yet so much has changed. And it's such a wonderful environment. I never really appreciated it at the time when I was in your chairs, the same chairs that I sat in. And you guys have kept them really nice. They still look really good. I remember when we got them. And as I sat in those seats, I didn't know that I always appreciated the environment that we have here. And then it was, through life, it was challenged. And I want to kind of unpack a few things, because I'm going to drop my coat off now. Now that I'm getting warmed up. I want to communicate some truths to you all. Some truths that I discovered as I sort of came out of that challenging period of my life. I can say now we've been on pretty good ground here the last few years. My wife Faith and I have 3 boys, Brad, Bruce, and Brooks, and we're going to welcome our first daughter January 3rd of this year. So we are really happy about that. We don't have a name yet, so that's going to be tough. It's been a debate in our household here lately. But she's going to be awesome. She's going to be beautiful, and we'll see how my youngest Brooks, who is the self-declared boss of the family, we'll see how he responds from the big brother. It's going to be fun. But I want to unpack some truths that I've continued to discover. I think first time I came here was back in 2011, to come back and speak. And I had a message that was sort of stolen from a message that I remember, one of the few messages that I remember when I was attending here, and that was a message about decisions determine your destiny. And last time I was here, I think it was in the springtime, I really wanted to unpack for you all the power of God's grace. And we used the story of the prodigal son, and we tried to, what I tried to paint was the picture of who God is in that story from the eyes of the father who welcomed his son back home. And today I kind of want to continue on that same thing. I had a different message as I was preparing for this, but I think as I was driving in today, I really want to deliver to you all the truth about some of your perspectives that you might have about your performance, your relationship to God and God's grace for you. I think sometimes, growing up in the church, I often got really distracted by the perception that somehow the things that I do, my performance, is how God judges me. And so I'm going to try to unpack this in a way that's helpful to you all, and hopefully I can, reserve enough time at the end, like last time, we can do some question and response. Because again, I have not figured everything out. I was in this room 15 years ago, and I've gone all over the world, and I've done a lot of different things, but I still do not have this whole thing figured out. But there's some things that I think if you can start to change the way that you have convinced yourself God views you, you're going to be able to unlock this powerful life of righteousness that we so desire. A lot of us in this room want to live that righteous life, but we have some messages in our minds that get in the way of that. I'm a little clumsy, so I tend to knock stuff over. I really want to. Let me just put that on. Can't even figure that part out. All right, so I'm going to share a story with you, and I think, has anybody ever set out on a path, set out on a course, and it didn't quite go the way that you wanted? Has anybody ever bought something, or gotten a Christmas present, and you had it in your mind what it was, and then you got it, it didn't quite measure up? Anybody ever had that type of experience? Come on, let me see. Does anybody have an example? I'll even get you guys involved. Anybody got a good example of that? Would love if somebody just. Anybody? Yeah, you got one? Go ahead.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna get. So my brother pulled a prank on me and gave me a cardboard box in the shape of a Nerf gun.
In the shape of a what?
Nerf.
A Nerf gun? And it was a cardboard box? Not quite exactly what you were hoping for. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, what's that?
I got a bike once.
You got a bike?
It was bad.
Not good.
Not like bikes.
No? I feel like there's a lot more to that story. There's so much. All right. Well, anybody else? Who's ever gotten something? Or maybe you, yeah, go ahead.
My mom got me a huge box. It's really big. It's something really small.
Yeah, it was like an oversized box with a tiny gift. Yeah, not what you were expecting, huh? I'm gonna come down here a little bit. Anybody else got something that's kind of, that can help me relate this to you? Yeah, we got one more.
My parents got, my dad got a phone for my mom. I didn't realize it, but they wrapped the box up.
Oh, my gosh. Jerks, man. That's your phone. The box of your phone. Oh, gosh. Oh, man, so here's my story. Before my second, do we have several hand raised over here? You want to share one? I'd love to hear it. Just jammed up on you. Nothing. Not even 100 feet, but 0 feet. Our world is filled with these types of stories. So I was on the other end of this, where I sort of afflicted someone with disappointment. So I was getting ready for my second deployment, and so I bought a truck. I was only home for a few months. I bought a 2005 Chevy Silverado. It was just a little get-around truck. I lived 2 miles from where I worked. I needed a vehicle for like 7 or 8 months. So I bought this thing used off a guy, and I drove it around. It was a great truck. It was just a pretty standard base model pickup truck. Ran great, and my deployment was approaching, and so I put it up, I listed it, and after a few days I got a bite. And so there's this guy that lived about 25 miles away from me. He's like, hey, love the truck, just want to come drive it, but look, it's what I'm looking for. I'm like, cool. So he's an older gentleman. I drive out there to meet him. We take the truck for a spin. It's great. He's like, man, you settle on a price, we're good to go. He said, meet me tomorrow morning, Saturday morning at the bank. I'm like, I'm there. Good deal. So the next morning I get up and I'm driving to the bank. It's 25 miles, 30, 35 minutes away. And I'm driving along the highway, not really thinking about anything, and all of a sudden, I just feel this like, in the truck. I'm like, well, that's weird. And I look, would I hit something? I run something over? I look in my rearview mirror, and there's like this part that just sort of flies out. And I see it, and I'm like, what was that? I thought maybe I hit like a small animal or something. But I'm driving along, and then my steering wheel starts to do like this, but I'm going straight. And I'm like, this is not what it should be doing. And then sure enough, I hit another little bump, and it's a hard, I could hear something drop. And the next thing I know, my steering wheel goes all the way like this, but I'm still going straight. And I'm like, this is terrible. So I'm like panicking. I don't know what to do. I don't want to stand this guy up. At the same time, I got to sell my truck because I'm getting ready to deploy. So I pull up to the bank, and I go in there. This guy's all excited. He's got his check ready to sign the paperwork. And I said, hey bud, that truck you drove yesterday, that ain't the same truck out there. I don't know what's going on with it, but I tell him about the problem. He's like, that's really weird. It was driving fine here. So I said, I know. Whatever you want to do. He said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's just take it around to my buddy's. He's got a shop, 2 miles from here. I'm like, dude, you do not want to drive that thing a quarter of a mile. It's not, you need to tow it. He goes, that'll be fine. Just follow me. I'm like, all right. I was like, so do you still want to buy it? He's like, well, yeah, just knock $500 off of it. I'm like, all right, man. But just so you know, there's a problem. I'm telling you, there's a problem. So we shake on it, we sign the paperwork, and he's like, all right, follow me. So I'm driving around to this guy's body shop, and I'm on the way there, and this is I'm losing steering, right? By the time I pull up, we're just around the corner. By the time I pull up, the front of the truck is smoking. And I'm like, and he jumps out of his old car. He comes over there, looks down, he's like, fire! I'm like, fire? And he's thinking, there's flames shooting out the front tire. He gets a hose, he hoses this thing down, and the hubcap, the wheel, the whole thing is melted down. And I just sit back and I look at him, I'm like, your truck's gonna need a new tire, bud. worst part about the whole story is he had to give me a ride back into town in his other car. So I got to ride 30 miles all the way back and get dropped off at a Walmart with this guy. Terrible situation. Now, I sold this guy something that turned out to be way different than what he thought he was going to get. Way different. It was not what I had planned on. It was not what he had planned on. But there we were. That's the situation that we were in. And so this story is, to me, a lot like life. You know, when I was in Afghanistan, my truck got hit by an RPG. A lot of you guys know this story. Maybe you've heard it. I've told it here a couple of times. But truck took an RPG. Wrong place, wrong time. Hit my headrest. Put shrapnel all over me. Knocked me out pretty good. I wake up in Germany. And I'm like, this is not what I thought was going to happen. This is not what I had planned. I always knew it was a possibility, but this is not the way it's supposed to be. You know, 2014, I had some issues, mental health issues. I was losing it. And I woke up in the hospital because I had just blacked out. I had just completely disassociated for hours. They finally picked me up, and there I was in the hospital. I'm looking at my wife, who was absolutely terrified. This is not the way our life is supposed to go. This is not what I thought. Sometimes we can try and do the right thing all day long. But life has a way of changing our course. And what we do in those moments are what really matters. That's what reveals our heart, our character. You know, a lot of times when we fall short, when we have bad habits, when we have sin in our lives, when we do something repeatedly, we all have our thing. We all have that area of our life that's a secret that we don't want anyone else to know about. We all have that story about us that we don't want other people to know. We've all messed up. We've all had those moments in our life that we're not only embarrassed about, but we're ashamed. We feel ashamed. And on the spectrum of life, we're sitting in that shame and we're saying, I'm definitely not worthy of love from anyone. I'm not worthy of God's love for me. And yet we find ourselves getting into a pattern that if somehow I can just do better, if I can perform and I can follow the rules good enough, that I will somehow be seen as a child of God. God will then somehow, he'll accept me because I've done the right thing. And can I tell you today that both of those ends of the spectrum are all based in your own pride. That your evaluation of your performance does not equate to God's grace for your life. That your righteousness is not made through your own action. In fact, it's my belief, it's my understanding, that in order to unlock that righteousness in your life is to completely step away from that. It is to say that the abundance of grace that I receive has really nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with what Christ has done for you, what he has done on your behalf. For you to say that somehow your action now makes you more available to that or that your action somehow makes you less available to that grace is putting yourself on the same level of where God is. Christ did something for you that is made available to you free because he loves you. And it does not matter how much you've messed up. Because if what Christ did on the cross is enough, if it is enough for you, and it is total and it is complete, then it is always, it is all that is required. And so through that stepping back, through that realization that I cannot actually do anything to make myself more righteous by my own actions, then you're able to actually receive what God has intended to be for you. So here's another example that I kind of want to break down for you, and that is the story of Peter. Peter was told that by Jesus, right? Jesus looked him in the face and said, "You're going to deny me." Before the rooster, he said, "Do you love me?" Remember this story? Let's go back and read it. It's Luke 22. Let's take a look at it. You have your Bibles. You can open up to Luke 22. It's verse 31. Jesus foretells Peter's denial. "Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you, that he might sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brothers." Peter said to him, "Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death." Jesus said, "I tell you, Peter, the rooster will not crow this day until you deny 3 times that you know me." What can we pull out from this story? Peter professed his undying devotion. I'm ready to go to prison and to death. Have you ever said anything like that to somebody? Can you imagine the weight of that? You stand across from another human being and say, "I'm ready to not only go to jail for you, I'm ready to die for you." It's a pretty unwavering commitment. It's a pretty serious thing. Yet, Jesus already knew. He already knew that he was going to do the exact opposite before the sun would rise. Not just like in 10 years, but within hours. This guy was going to go back on the very promise that he just made to him. And Jesus knew that. Yet, what happened? Of course, he denied him. We can read through that story. He went through, and before he had actually forgotten this commitment he had made. I'm going to go to jail for you. I'm going to die for you. And within hours, he's like, "Oh, no, that guy." What else can we learn from that story? Not only did this guy do the exact opposite and straight up betrayed the man who was going to die for him, we also know that Jesus, later on, he first appeared to his disciples and Peter was there. What else do we know about Peter? That's not a rhetorical question I'm going to ask. See if I can get anybody to tell me. What else do we know about Peter and what he went on to do in his life? Anybody know? After this whole thing with Jesus wrapped up. I heard is there a T-Rex arm? So, what did Peter do? He kind of started the church, didn't he? Yeah, he was kind of like the main dude. How do you guys feel about that? Does that make any sense? that the guy who said, I'm with you to the death, and then turned his back on him and said, I don't know you. You really think that's going to be your number one draft pick to start your whole legacy? Is that really going to be the guy? You're going to be like, hey, you're going to start the modern day church. You are going to be the man who is found fundamental in setting up what we know as the church, the bride of Christ. Does that make any sense to you? Why? Why would Jesus, who's got absolute, he's got the winning hand in this deal. He has absolute authority of this whole situation. Peter's got nothing, absolutely nothing to offer him. He betrayed him, denied him, nothing to offer Jesus anymore. If somebody did that to me, you think I'm going to want anything to do with that guy? I would never trust him again. It's like, dude, you told me you were going to die for me, and then within hours, you went back on it. How many times have you done that in your life? Hey, Jesus, I messed up again. And I'm here to I don't want that to be part of my life. I don't want this bad habit that I've got. I don't want to go back to this. I don't want the consequences of this relationship that I've had. I'm kind of done with it. Or maybe God, I'm doing some stuff on the internet that I really shouldn't have been doing. I've been looking at some things I really shouldn't have been looking at. Or maybe there's something else that you have going on. I don't know. Maybe there's like some poor choices. Maybe you drank a little too much beer. Maybe you smoked a little weed. I don't know what you guys are doing. Maybe you did some stuff on Snapchat. By the way, just delete that thing. Can you start that as a hashtag, like delete Snapchat? I don't know what you guys. I don't know what it is that you've done. But how many times have you said, God, I'm ready, like today, like I'm starting new. And then within hours, you find yourself back in that spot. Am I alone in that? Because I know I've done that. Anybody else? Anybody else find themselves doing the very thing they swore they would never do? They said, hey, I'm done with that. And yet, here we are again. Can I tell you today that even though it's in stark contrast for us to be like, I never denied Jesus. We deny him with our choices. And yet, just like Peter, God looks at you and says, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about that bad thing that you did. You are on your best day, you are not worthy of his grace. And equally so, on your worst day, so what do we conclude from that? That righteousness, that freedom does not come from getting it right as many days in a row as you possibly can. And then when you fail, you say, I'm sorry, let me try again. And if I could just kick this habit, if I could just cut that person out of my life, that bad relationship, if I could just overcome this feeling of shame and self-doubt, this narrative that plays in your, like a loop in your head that says, you're not good enough. You're broken. You are broken. Anybody ever had that thought? I have believed that I was broken, that I was beyond repair, that there's nothing really to do for me at this point. I'm just kind of too far gone. God said, Brady, it's not about you. Step back. receive the grace that I have. And there also might be, how are we going on time? 5 to 11? 10:45? Half till 10:45? Sorry. I just want to kind of wrap this up for you all. Where we start out doesn't always go like, where we started out, what we started with, doesn't always take us where we thought we were going to go. It's in those moments you have to recognize that Jesus has paid the price for you. That your performance is not what God is looking to you for. God is looking for your willingness to step back and say, God, I choose to allow your grace to be sufficient for me. Aggressive forgiveness. So I think I mentioned this last time. It's in Romans 5:21. I'm going to probably say that every time I get from it. Because to me, it's just so different than what I came to understand. Romans 5, verse 21. So that, as sin reigned in death, grace also might reign through righteousness, leading to eternal life through Jesus Christ. It's in the verse. It might be a different verse or a different version. For if, and this doesn't have the aggressive forgiveness part, but for if because of one man's trespass, death reigned through the one man, much more will those who receive the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness reign in life through the one man, Jesus Christ. So I know we're running short on time. I want to take a few minutes. Some of these things can be a little bit counterintuitive. Some of this idea can be like, well, what are you saying, Brady? It doesn't really matter what I do. God cares about what choices you're making in life. God doesn't want those consequences of poor decisions to bear out in life. They will. God has better for you. God has this gift for you that is greater than what you thought it was. Just like a gift that you were disappointed with, God has something for you that is greater than you can ever imagine. But that pursuit of it comes from you taking yourself out of the equation, judging yourself based on your performance, and allowing God to come in and reconcile you, and put you in good stead. So if this has been confusing for you all, I want to take a few minutes, and I just want to make sure that if there's a question you have about that or anything else, we can talk about it for a few minutes. It's what I call it question and response. I don't have answers. I have responses. Does anybody have anything? Give it a few awkward moments of silence. About what I spoke about today, or questions about, you guys asked me last time I talked about Jack. But yeah, if you have something else, I want to try and keep it like, let's use our time wisely, only a few more minutes. But if you guys want to ask me that, ask me anything. Somebody's got something. Do you have a point? Yeah, go ahead. The question was, did I know I wanted to go in the Army? In fact, I know I didn't want to go in the Army when I left high school. I did not go in the military. I think about my sophomore year of college, started to put together. So, it was a slow process. And I was like, well, I was a business major, so I was like, hey, maybe I'll go be like a finance officer or something. Kind of got looking at it, I was like, I don't know, being a ranger sounds kind of cool. I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do it. Let's go. It was sort of a progression.
Brady, you talked about when you constantly that daily, step back, point back, feel out much grace. How much time do you do that?
So, I think sometimes when we face some of our greatest temptations, I think sometimes when we face some of our greatest battles, we forget how God sees us. And one of the things that I've been trying to practice lately as I face those challenges, which are broad ranges, I can talk about my challenge, no problem, sharing you all with my challenge. One of the challenges I have right now is work is hard for me. My job is hard. And oftentimes I feel like I'm not good enough to do my job, like I'm not smart enough to do my job. Sometimes the challenge is just like so overwhelming that it leads to one small misstep to maybe a failure. Other times as a dad, I get like too aggressive. My kids frustrate me sometimes because they don't stop wrestling ever. It's like WrestleMania in my house 24/7, which I love, but it's also like, ugh! And what I have been trying to do is even in those moments, remind myself, I am righteous. I am a righteous man of God. I actually say that to myself. Because even in the midst of my failure, God still sees me. He has placed me. I cannot change what God has done. He has saved me. His son went to the cross for me. I cannot change that. If I can change it, then it's not all encompassing. That act is not what we believe it to be if I can actually take myself out of it. God sees me as righteousness. He has put me in proper standing. And it's me who forgets that. It's me who begins to believe that. And so even when I'm facing those moments of failure, I've been getting better at reminding myself, no, I am righteous. Even right now. Even when I feel like I failed, I am righteous. Because my righteousness hasn't come from me. It wasn't something that I did. My righteousness was bestowed upon me through that free gift. It's not going to change. So reminding myself of that truth, declaring that truth, I am righteous, even though I may have denied him hours after I've committed to him. He still sees me as righteous. That's the way. Any other questions like that? Has this confused anyone? Does anybody feel confused or conflicted about this, about anything I've said today? What's it stirred up for you? Which one? Has this stirred up anything? I want to hear from you. I know this is a big room, a big setting. I want to talk. Yeah. Yeah. God's love for you is not dependent on your action. It's really hard to believe. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem, there's an economy there for us that doesn't really make sense. Because our whole world is structured around, if I do this, then this will come. If I do that, then I'm somehow kind of worthy of this result. Right? And God's saying, like, that's not how I work. That's not my economy. There isn't a give and take. There is a covenant that God has given to you. You guys understand the difference between a covenant and a promise or a contract is? The contract is, if you do this, if you perform this action, this will be my response. If you fix my roof, I will pay you. If the roof's fixed, I pay you. There's a contract, there's an agreement, right? Other example, whatever, you guys don't understand what I mean by a contract. It is you do this, and this will happen. It's a guarantee. Covenant is different. Covenant is, it doesn't matter what you do, I will do this action. That's a totally different deal. When someone enters into a covenant, it means despite what you do, I'm still going to follow through on my part of the deal. My part of the deal is, it's already done. There's no changing it, regardless of what you do. That's what we see with Peter. Regardless of what Peter did, God still chose him to be the founder, if you will, of what he calls his bride, church. If it was dependent upon Peter, Peter doesn't qualify. Doesn't. He took himself out. And so God's message to you not who among you, as if there's like some of you who might be or we're all in this bucket. We're all there. We're all in this cycle. We're all in this thing where it's like, hey, I am not worthy again. But God is saying to you, like, I want better for you. I have more for you. If you step back and allow what I have, my gift for you, to take hold in your life, if you believe this truth about what I've done for you, then you will see what I will do in your life. But you keep trying to do it over and over yourself is just as is on the shame end of the spectrum, and on the I've been doing good. When we look at somebody else, like, hey, you know what? I've been doing pretty good over here. I haven't done, name it, X, Y, Z. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't dip. I don't vape. Whatever. I don't do it. I'm not on Snapchat. I don't have a Snapchat. I don't even know what's going on. I'm not on social media. I don't do any of that stuff. Understand that that's just as separating from you, and God is saying, hey God, I'm worthy. I got it done for you today. You're like, they're equivalent. They're just different ends of the spectrum. And so we're no closer to God if we have not stepped back from our own self and said, God, it is what you have done in my life that matters. It's the concentration of when we meditate on the depths of which we have been forgiven, we meditate on that. When you meditate on the depth of what you have been forgiven of, you meditate on the fact that what Christ has done for you, that's the difference. It's where your mind and your heart are that matters to God. It's a good question. Does that help? Does that bring some clarity? A few more minutes. I'm going to steal. Who else has it? Who else has it? Shoot your hand up. If you got a question, if you got something you want to add. There you go. How's D-line? Yeah. I'm sorry? What do we owe God? What do we owe God? What do we have to offer Him? So I answer your question with the question. What do we have to offer God? Huh? Are we meant, I'm sorry, I remember. Are we meant to owe Him something? Make sure I really think about that. I think, what does God ask of us? Yes, that we confess with our mouth and believe in our heart. There's going to be, to me, there's kind of different things that, I don't know, maybe I'm still working my way through thinking about this, but sometimes, like I know we've talked about, like there's a lot of people who are in the church who think they lead lives, good lives, and, it's like, I think Billy Graham quoted like saying, like, some scary percentage of people in the church probably aren't going to be in heaven. I always like scared they like that. But I don't know. I think as I kind of think about some of this stuff and I read the Bible through kind of the lens that I have been over the last few years, I think I'm going to get to heaven and be kind of surprised by who's going to be here. Because God's aggressive forgiveness, God's grace for us is just so unimaginable. That it's like, that even when I'm at my worst, He still has compassion for me and love for me. And I think the only thing that He's really asking for us is that we accept that. And I think when we accept that truly, and that becomes the narrative and the loop in our mind, that's when He does His best work. Because the loop in the narrative in my mind, I know where that leads me. I know right where that goes. It goes down to a real dark, nasty place. But when I exchange that narrative out for how God sees me, He sees me as His son. He sees you as His daughter. As you are royalty. Do you guys see yourself that way? When you're on social media, you compare yourself to somebody else. You compare your life to somebody else's. When you, for better or for worse, sometimes you might be looking at other people like, I don't know what that is. Their life looks like it kind of stuff. Or you look at somebody else and you're like, wow, they got it. She's beautiful. She's pretty. They can sing. That guy can play the guitar. He's talented up for that. And you look at yourself like, what am I? Oh, I'm damaged. I've done some stuff I shouldn't have done. Or somebody did something to me and now I'm damaged. I'm really not that. I'm not worth it. That's the move. Go ahead. Now? I did bench. Let's talk about what I used to bench. Can we do that? I used to bench 405, power clean 385 in college, many moons ago. Squatted 654. I cannot do that now. All right, we're gonna wrap up. What other questions? Last minute, your last chance. Come on. 6'4". Huh? Oh, thank you guys. I'm serious. This is awesome. I love having this. I want to have like a conversation with you all. Because this is like, I really do feel home here. And yeah, my oldest thinks Brentley or Brensley is really pushing hard. So I don't know if we, yeah. Hang on, we have one other question before we cut.
What are some practical ways to step back?
Practical ways you can step back. Sorry, I know we're getting to this, and I could seriously hang out with you guys for like another hour. Practical ways. Well, I guess I can absolutely do that. I don't have anything for lunch. Sorry, so I want to try and answer this question. Yeah. Practical ways that we can step back. I think that part of stepping back is an acknowledgement of who you are. It's an acknowledgement of saying, I feel this kind of way right now. The self-awareness piece is really hard because as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more in touch with my emotions than I used to be. And I've started to try and do like a little thing that's, I'll beat myself up all the time. All the time. I think that's what I'm talking about. But it's being able to step back and say, instead of saying, I am this, I am garbage, I'm trash, whatever those words that come into your mind, I am, not capable, or I am, there's these things that you start to kind of see for yourself. And it's one thing to say, I am this way, I am broken, I am, not good enough. You can say, I'm having the thought that. And it is one way this is like a pretty practical thing. Just saying, I'm having the thought that I feel worthless right now because I've done something I swore I was going to stop doing. I went too far in this area of my life. So I'm having the thought that I'm not as valuable as I was before that. And when you change that wording from I am not good enough, or I don't have value, or I don't have worth, to I'm having the thought, then it allows just a little bit of space. It allows a little bit of space for you to say, I'm feeling that way because I feel guilty. Well, why do you feel guilty? Well, because if I don't do, whatever, you trace your thought from there. You're like, maybe God's not going to care about me as much because I didn't follow the rules today. And so if I didn't follow the rules today, why should I follow them tomorrow? What are the rules? And God's like saying, His mercy is made new every day. And that doesn't mean you got to wait for the sunrise. Why is His mercy made new every day? Why would a God who has absolute, He's created you. Why would He offer that to you? It's not a fair deal for Him. What's He getting out of the deal? Understand that, getting you out of the deal is what He cares about. It's not about it. There's not a return, this economy, there's not a return on His investment to you. That's what He's looking for. He's looking at just wants you. He wants your mind. He wants your thoughts to be captured. So when you are able to create a little bit of space, when you're getting that loop in your head that says, that's going to just take you right back down to that path, it's saying, I'm having the thought that this is true, instead of, this is reality. I'm the worst. I can step back and say, I'm having that thought that I am. And it gives you a little bit of space to trace it and say, what's the truth here? The truth is that on my best day, I'm not worthy of God. On my worst day, I'm not worthy of God. So then what is it? He wants you back in. He wants you in. He wants to give you that forgiveness. That's what His grace is about, that aggressive forgiveness. Somebody else had their hand raised? I thought yeah. I don't, honestly, I'm probably going to do that always. I think, which by nature, our very nature is to compare. Because comparison is this, we're trying to assess our value. So we're trying to benchmark ourselves. So I think when it can be, because it can make you feel like you're better than somebody. What's worse? Comparing yourself and be like, I'm way better than you are. Or, that person's way better than me. Which one's worse? I'd rather hang out with a person who thinks that they're, at least doesn't think they're better than everybody else. I know that. But so part of our nature is to always do that. But I think at some point, you've got to be willing to stop that spiral downwards that is saying, relative to these other people, I don't have what they have. And you're the only you that God made, because you're the only you that God needs. And I think if God needed some more of what you have to offer, he would have done something different. But he's got everything that he wants in this world. What's your name? Ariel? Ariel. If he wanted more, he would have made another one. But he made you because you are the only Ariel that God needs. That's way different than I'm not going to use kids that I use. What else? Yeah. How do I know that? How do I know that? You don't know that, Brady. You don't know that. I'm saying that in the front. You gotta go.
We need to have Brady come and spend the day with us.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Hey, so if you want to come up after the thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited.